wow, I didn't even realize the transformation has encouraged a woman to look back. Wow, look how far I've come. A stage. It shows thinking about it. A story unfolding.
Hi, I'm Donna Dunlap, storyteller and creative mind behind Picturing Art, where we frame the art of storytelling. Today we're sitting down talking about the importance of documenting your journey and the power of visual storytelling. Come on, join the conversation.
And working at that company, trying to figure out our paths. And we took those first set of pictures. We had no idea on the journey we were going.
Had no idea. You told me that you had been going through the photos and you can see the progression of your journey through those photographs. And I was really excited to hear that because documenting our journey is so important, right? For us. It's good for us to also be able to look at where we came from.
Important part of this discussion is not perfection, or we don't have self-doubt. We don't have a test of our faith. It's just that we stuck it out and we document it. And to think about transformation, and when I looked at the photograph, wow, I didn't even realize the transformation has encouraged you to see that you could connect the dots, to look back. Wow, look how far I've come. Right? So you can get caught up. Oh my gosh, I'm not where I want to be. But when you start, I get chills thinking about it. Amazingness has been.
When I took your photos for the first time, I was just starting out.
At that time, I was just taking photographs with no intention of I was going to want to be a keynote speaker, do workshops, be in a big leadership position.
Will you explain to me a little bit more your reason for having this discussion and why you feel that it's so important to share that with others?
I always get people who are asking me, oh, you've done these amazing things. Can you tell me how to do it in a shorter period of time? So I can tell you there were challenges. I can tell you I didn't start off college. I can tell you there were stages. But for you to visually see it creates another connection point. Technology or photographs tell a story, and I see from the photographs that we took together, and I can see that my confidence level increased.
Tell me a little bit more about how you see your growth in confidence and what other ways.
So this was Hilo.
And
then the shadow in the background, and I'm kind of sweating. And it really tells a story of, I don't hesitate, but sometimes people don't want to talk to you about the darkness of the wilderness. I said I wanted to be a trailblazer, but Donna, I think I should have chosen a better word because I didn't know how isolating that could feel. You're going in situations where you have a skill set, but I've jumped across different industries. So then you come in as an outsider with some skills and you have to build trust, and people don't know you. They don't believe what you say. I'll tell you a story about project management, why a few years ago I went back and got the certification. So what you don't know, when we were still working together, we were in a complex environment. It was very toxic, to say the least. And I took the project management exam, and at the time I failed it. And looking back, it wasn't that I wasn't skilled, but the anxiety and the stress of being in that environment, I couldn't do my best. And so after failing it, I said, I'm not going to worry about it. I know how to manage projects. And I went on to nonprofits, managed projects, and became an executive in programs. I was like, I don't need the PMP, project management certification, forget it. And I started a therapy journey, a healing journey, and the opportunity came to get the certification paid for. And when I took the exam and I passed it, I felt a sense of joy that I had never felt. And it made me realize sometimes you need to go back and reconnect with some things to heal. Because out of all the things, and I appreciate that, but I really needed that. And it felt so good to do well in it and know that it just wasn't that time.
It wasn't that time. It's amazing how we get that story from that picture. And I see your eye. Your eyes are like they're peering inside. Like you're outside looking in.
And this was right after we separated from that company. At that time, I was still in isolation, didn't know what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. And a few years later, all these amazing things happened. Mm-hmm. But like every time I post this picture, like this is one of people's favorite photographs. And I can see in my own eyes, I probably was very scared. I was sweating. But it teaches you that in the midst of the anxiety, in the midst of the wilderness, the darkness, the sweat, you keep going and let it unfold. And one of the things that is very important is to realize that life is joy and pain, and that you pray. Sometimes you can't pray it away, and sometimes you're sitting with something that pains you for a while, right? And unpacking that, and even when you think you're healed, be triggered. One of the things that I heard, recently, and there was a discussion with Kirk Franklin, he said, you got to win while you're wounded. And for me, that's hard. Again, I'm an introspective person and only child. I want to isolate, but you heal in community and from a corrective experience for something that may have been traumatizing. And I'm still learning that. And a part of me having this discussion with you is also revisiting things. And I can look at this photo and know what I was feeling and going through and be okay with it.
Wow. That's another thing I want to bring out about that photo. Even with that uncertainty in your eyes, I do see a fierceness and a determination. And that light behind you, to me, signifies that you weren't alone.
It gets very hard, kind of emotional thinking about that. Because you feel like, because there was moments, I'll tell you, when I was in that situation environment and I couldn't figure out the other side. Well, people were like, you're in this too long. Why haven't you figured it out? Well, God don't want me to be out of it yet, obviously. Yeah. And there is something that I need to learn in this. And just knowing that what I also have discovered, because I've had all those experiences, that it's going to be all right. It always figures itself out. It may not be exactly the way I wanted it to be, right, and it may be painful, but you live to tell and to share. It's interesting that you capture that. I never even thought about it.
I've learned that I may be looking at it from a technical, perspective, but you and my clients are looking at personality, the authenticity of who you are. You're looking at how you felt at that time. I'm just really honored that I'm able to bring that out in the photographs. I find that very interesting, that one of the things that you're able to see in these photographs is your progression of confidence. At the same time, I'm able to look at those photographs and see my skill set grow. In fact, sometimes when you upload to social media some of those early photographs, I cringe.
Talk about you created photos, but for me, it showed me that I kept going imperfectly and figuring out where I was going to be as I went along. So trust the process. And when we first started taking photographs, and even when we worked together, there was always, on a manufacturing facility, I'm engineering. You go down and you talk to the operators, and they're like, don't talk to me like I don't know anything. And just knowing that people from different backgrounds and operate cross-culturally with different students, and the connection point is always being present.
People usually tell me that one of the things that they like about me as a photographer is that they feel comfortable with me. They feel at ease. And me at the time, it's like I become one with you in that situation, in that environment, because I want to capture who you are.
And speaking things with projects and teams, I do the same thing. Really tailor things to the experience. So when I prepare for speech, it's not only the material, or I also usually research, like, what are people saying about this topic?
Right.
I'll go and look at the room, and in the moment, connect with people. And so that because that connection point makes you more personable. Because at the end of the day, people want to find parts of themselves in whatever that you do. And that makes you hear more personable and valuable to them.
Right.
Because there's a pain point that you're connecting with them. And as a photographer, you're capturing moments. It's like you're capturing this, and you didn't realize at that moment I was feeling like that.
I didn't know what you were thinking. Yeah. I didn't know what you were thinking. But I think perhaps I was feeling what you felt, which allowed me to capture that emotion.
You had empathy. And and that's another thing too. I brought up earlier about situational awareness. You have to read the room. Like, you have a plan as a photographer, you have a plan as a speaker, you have a plan as a leader, but in the moment, what does that person need? What does the team need? Being able to connect with that for the transformation to happen. Because until people feel like you hear them and they're valued, you understand the situation, whatever you're trying to do can't be accomplished.
Right. Let me say something else about that photo. The reason why that photo is sort of desaturated, probably because the lighting was off. And, I was new at this, so I didn't know a lot about what type of equipment to have. I probably hadn't acquired the equipment, that was necessary. Also, it required me to be more creative and imaginative in the editing process, in the post-processing. And that's why we ended up with the desaturated color image, but it only tells the story even better.
So I have to always catch myself too. Once you get better, will you allow that kind of imperfection to occur again?
Challenge.
And the problem with that is we need to be agile and adaptable.
Yes.
But the problem with becoming better is that you don't allow imperfections to occur, and that the issue can become is that you think you know the way to do better, but you also have to always be willing to meet the moment in imperfection.
I like that, meet the moment in imperfection.
Because you have to learn, even I can imagine as a photographer, to also trust the person you're photographing, and that imperfection may be the best way to capture them. But you are looking through the lens of an ideal version of a situation. And that's where being more adaptable, or what we call agile, matters. And what we've learned through the pandemic is that you have to let go. Even though you're an expert or skill at something, you have to let go of titles and runs in a moment when the other person may be more knowledgeable about what needs to happen. But you use your skill to execute more in a moment, but trust that they know more about that process to make it better.
Right.
Which is hard.
Yeah. Yes. It is. It's a challenge to maintain that openness to learning, to just the thrill of finding out, all of that comes with imperfection. And then when we get to the skill set where we think we have it all, we're never perfect, but we think we've arrived.
I'm better than that now.
Yes, exactly. And you risk losing that creativity, just what made us who we are anyway. We can't let go of that.
It's very hard. So that's the thing, is like, we're always continuously improving. We're always learning. And what I will say that even though that we were in a difficult work situation, the people that we work with, a lot of things that I do now, I realized because I was in that situation and there was always conflict going on. It was always chaos in some situations, but it was always good. It helped me, like where I see people panic, I see, because I was in those situations and I learned how to work through it, how I'm empowered in the moment to be better and to work through it better. And so, but that's in hindsight, because when you go through traumatic experiencing things that trigger you or where it was made you quite uncomfortable, later you realize through a corrective experience, hey, it wasn't all bad. There were parts of that that helped develop character points in me.
Right. Yeah. So I'd like to see another photograph that signifies a significant milestone or memory in your journey, on your journey, I should say. Or is it in your journey, on your journey? Your journey. You got to cringe, but we got to go through this. You think I'm going to cringe?
Yes.
Because it's an early photo.
Yes.
Okay. All right, what is it? Oh, that's the worst. That is the most cringe. Wait, bring it up. That is the most cringe-worthy photo right there.
It wasn't natural. We were trying to produce an office environment, and you can see I look uncertain and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was not thinking I would be a leader in the capacity that I have been. But I like the photo because it will show it. You could literally see I wasn't.
Wait, it keeps going up.
But and so
Damn,
where I am now. But again, I like it because my eyes tell a story. I'm quite uncomfortable. That my name is on the thing. I was probably uncomfortable with all those things. And we were outside, and then we came inside to take the photos. And for me, it signifies that I did not know. It signifies for me, you know, I want to be a global leader. I'm sharing who I am. I want to be behind the scenes. I'm uncomfortable, and to see how I transform and not only led projects, I went off and did community programs. I was an executive at a museum. I did all those things. But this person right here, if you would have told me my trajectory, like, heck no.
Yeah.
How can I do that? I'm like, oh my God, that's what I look like.
You just can't blame yourself for the awkwardness in that pose because I allowed that. I composed that, and I thought it was acceptable at the time. You know, right now I can look at that and I would not be able to snap that photo right now because I would see that you're uncomfortable, and we would work with that pose.
But yeah, it's just a part of it. And even though there's that photo too, even how I'm smiling in the headshot. To me, those photos is like, it's clear indication I'm just trying to figure it out. Even though I feel awkward, it's part of I'm showing up and I'm present in the moment. So even on both sides, we were probably awkward, but that just tells that story. And even that one. But here we are, this one. So there's that first set of photos where we just looked at, and then there's the light photo and the darkness. And this photo is, actually I work with a stylist. I think I had a voice and speech coach. We had music in this photo shoot. We were on the street, then we had that video, we walked in. So I was definitely on my journey being more confident. And this became my headshot for several years. And I think about 2 or 3 years after that, you know, I had transitioning into nonprofits at that time. I was working, and so I'm in my next element. And then a few years later, I get on a TEDx stage telling a speech, and a part of that was talking about failure and overcoming that. And so I was becoming more confident, and not just skill set, but more confident with expressing my imperfections and knowing that it's okay to fail and I could live after that. And so that was apparent to me in that. I mean, even the way I look, I had a stylist, a makeup artist, but I could just tell in general, why I felt more confident, because there was background work happening, continuous improvement and learning. There's a parting back.
Yeah, yeah. There was background, and there was also a more confident you. I also see that you had a more confident photographer.
Hey.
Yeah, yeah.
So this process for me, it helps me tell somebody who may look at themselves and say, gosh, I'm not there yet. I shouldn't start. I'm like, look at this photo. I look pretty, I'm not playing a part. I look pretty awkward. But here we are rushing in when people could see it. Now, you can't let somebody judge you by being the expert. Like you might be the rookie, but you still have value. The point is that even if you're in the beginning stages, you have value. And being comfortable with being uncomfortable and walking in the rooms where, you know, I transfer skills or transfer to something different. And you often are treated like the outsider, and you have to get over that. At the end of the day, no matter what title or how much money you have, to have great impact, people have to trust you. Like to have great photographs, the person you're photographing has to trust you. You're saying, you know, turn here. Let's go in the darkness and let's take this photograph. Stay on top of this thing. They might be afraid of heights. You know what I mean? It's just...
I know. It was so funny because one of them was that picture with you walking past the open doors.
Yeah. Now I look at that photo, and at the time I was like, this makes no sense. That's not, like, I couldn't imagine the significance of that.
Yeah.
But now that we're having this conversation and talking about going in rooms that you didn't anticipate and someone saying you don't belong here, it's like you opened the door for yourself and you walked in. And these are like different doors that I walked in.
Wow.
This one of the last photos I took last year. I had another outfit planned. And once I started to think about making myself and all that, I said, oh, this skirt would be better. Not knowing that divine intervention, I would match the stage.
Beautiful.
And you can see my confidence, and the story of this in particular is so important. While it wasn't a keynote speech, it was called Inspirational Insight Session. It's an engineering dream, especially as a female engineer, to speak at an engineering conference. I had tried to present topics and proposals for several years. It didn't work out. However, last year was meant to be. A program manager reached out to me, went to my website and said, hey, I think you'd be good for this. And I thought, there's no way. I submitted proposals several times, and it was on the main stage.
Okay.
I couldn't have planned that. Divine intervention. I had given up. Sometimes you give up on a dream or something, and it comes back. I'm getting chills about it. Bigger and better than you ever imagined.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. So there are the workshop sessions, there are keynotes, and then there are inspirational insight sessions. And this was a part of it. And I was one of the 8 on the main stage, one of the inspirational insight sessions. I said all that to say is sometimes you experience disappointments and you think in a certain spaces, it's just not meant for me. I'll go to other spaces. However, it's timing. And when you go back in that space, I can tell I was more confident. It was before the pandemic was the last time I had spoken in front of an audience. And the speech was about the strength of our past gives us faith in our future. I remember that. That was the last time I was on the stage. I was a keynote then. And this photo, I could tell the strength of our past is during this process. I've gone to therapy, been on my healing journey, and the person who showed up here was more healed, was more self-aware, and was ready in a different way. And as I prepared for this, there was imperfect moments, but I kept going, and it was the first time I felt like overjoyed because I knew how hard it was to get there. And I told you I had a dental emergency. I had a dental implant surgery a month before this. I had to get a retainer, had to learn how to talk with that. And I share all of this because you get to your big moment and there may be a chaos in your life in another way, but you still show up. And those photos that you share in this video show that to that person getting there, walking through all those doors. Sometimes going places where people are like, what are you doing here? Right? Well, like, how did you get on that stage? And it's one of my proudest moments because I didn't think I would ever speak at that conference, let alone get on the main stage.
I love that story, especially how you approached them several times, asking to take part in one of the art discussions, and they rejected you.
Yeah.
So then they approached you for the main stage.
Right, inspirational. And think about even that title is divine, an inspirational insight session. We're having this discussion about transformational, and it's an inspirational insight to what that looks like. Even after you achieve success, there'll be setbacks. You'll be in the wilderness. You'll be walking through all these doors, right? Some closed, some open. But gosh.
That's awesome. I love that. And that is a perfect image to represent what you just said.
Open arms.
Yes.
It was one of those moments I will always remember because I felt it. I allowed myself to feel it in the moment, and I had been guilty of not. I kept going and going. And maybe perhaps it was just the sit down of the pandemic and all those things, therapy, being more introspective, connecting the dots more. But I can feel it, and I think the photo even shows.
Speaking of your journey, I remember when you were in Toastmasters at Raytheon, and I came to your speeches. I came to a couple of them. At that time that you joined Toastmasters, in our discussions, I don't remember you ever mentioning anything or any desire or dream to be a keynote speaker. I thought Toastmasters was the stepping stone for spoken word or something like that. Did I get that wrong? What were you thinking at the time?
So an interesting backstory, what you don't know. During my high school graduation, I was the class speaker. And I don't remember all the quote, but it basically was a quote by Frederick Douglass: the only way to succeed is to override the obstacles in your way. And at the time when I was doing that speech, I would always rely on notes. I was a speaker who always relied on notes. I joined Toastmasters because I wanted to learn how to be more impromptu speaking. I had done some improv classes, but I didn't know how to speak just without a script, without my notes. It was my clutch. And I had heard about, and then even learning about filler words, that Toastmasters, because they have this thing called topics, where you talk about random topics,
right?
It would allow you to be more comfortable speaking just without a script, like we're doing now.
Right.
And so that was a part of it. And then the mentor that I had at the time, she became my mentor for life. Even now, when I have speeches, I run it by her. She gives me feedback. So I really joined to be more comfortable with being an impromptu speaker, was my intent. And I had been a class speaker, as I mentioned. And I've done workshops. The main stage, I guess I didn't know at the time how to get there. But then as it grew and I started to learn more about speaking, I was like, I had been a class speaker before. Now I can speak without notes. Let me try that out.
So looking at this photo of you and Toastmasters, taken with the camera on the phone, no technical perfection of this image at all. And at that time, so impressed with your speaking skills, even at that time, they were still unpolished. You were still learning. But this is still a part of your journey. It's as important as these images later, where you're more polished, you're more confident, the photography is more professional. Now, talking about your journey. Look at you with that mic. Yes, you can sing, but what I see here is that, what do you call it? Foretelling, prophecy, whatever. Foreshadowing, yes. Foreshadowing of keynote speaker. How about that?
Right.
And that almost reminds me of that image of that view, the standing. Yeah, look at that.
Wow, that connection, all of that.
Yeah.
And I want to make it perfectly clear that you start where you are, like Toastmasters. You volunteer to speak at organization events. I was a part of a nonprofit. I say that because I don't want you to think that you start from rookie, you go straight to main stage. There are stages. I also did TEDx and those different things, but there were steps before that. And one of the keynotes I also did was, the sweet stuff. I had given up on that. And in the context of that, I had been in Sweet magazine for Women Engineers You Should Know, and I had won an award from Sweet for K-12 education.
Okay.
And then, of course, the leadership journey. So there was people watching. That's another thing, too. We all say we want to meet the decision makers, but there are people around them that you don't realize are connected to the decision makers. So you have to treat everybody like they're a person and not like, I want to meet the person at the top. And that is a key part of my journey. I haven't always known who was the key person. And you have to get over that. Even I didn't treat a operator on the shop floor as less than because I'm an engineer. Recipe for disaster, because the people who are connected to the work know more than you do, and get over yourself.
Absolutely. That's a life lesson. That's a life lesson right there for everybody. So going back to Toastmaster, you took that because you wanted to be more confident in your impromptu speaking.
Yeah, because you think about, especially leadership, that's impromptu. Because a person will challenge you, and you have to maintain your composure and disposition, be able to, if you won't directly answer a question, go around it and figure out all those things. And I would totally blow it in the moment. And I know that Toastmasters work because I've been on a stage and I may have messed up and I caught myself, or I went back, but I didn't fall apart.
Right.
Prior to all of that, I would have fallen apart.
Right.
And imperfection.
Yeah.
Oh, I just messed up.
Yeah.
Don't say that. Keep going. And then if there's a way you can tie it in, it's like, remember earlier when I messed up, you all gave me grace and I didn't lose on the composure. All that.
Okay. So you've been able to use your Toastmaster experience in leadership, in your communication with your staff.
And meeting the moment in imperfection. Gracefully. Apply that same grace for other people.
Okay, I like that. And how did Toastmasters help with keynote speaking, although that wasn't your goal at the time?
It helps to pace yourself. They call it pregnant pause, which you pause. And I noticed sometimes when I might get excited and I can calm myself down, or I catch myself using a filler word. And, so I've said so in this conversation, but in the moment I can hear where I'm veering off and being more inclusive in the language. So it taught me how to hear my own voice and where I may be in tone or filler words, or I may be miscommunicating. I can hear myself, not just someone else saying it. I can hear it because I've trained my ear to hear when my communication may be off. Okay. So it really catches you, get that.
Okay. So, Alicia, I know you love music. I would walk by your desk at work and you would have your earphones in and you would be moving to the music. I know you love it. So I'm trying to remember, did I ask you to bring your those album covers of Michael Jackson. What prompted you to bring those to the photo session?
I felt like we had taken a lot of great photos, but that creative element wasn't there. I wanted to emphasize my love of music, and I approached you and I said that. You said, okay, well, just bring it and we'll figure it out, because there's also a photo with me with a ring with a microphone. So there was an artist. I love her work, and I got that, and earrings and that she does and everything. So I wanted to highlight more of my fun and creative side and connection to music. And then this one is all very fun.
I was having so much fun.
We could sound all of that.
Yeah, that's I was having so much fun. I love that mural. Is that what you call it?
Yes. Then you also can capture deep moments of thought. So this is also one of my favorites. It captures when I'm like, I might be in a moment, because sometimes I feel like this when I'm overwhelmed, when I had enough for the moment, and my introverted self wants to go back inside.
Yeah.
But this is really a reflective, deep in thought.
Yeah.
And I love the way you capture that. I'm not sure what made you capture it like that, but it's kind of perfect. You have captured a lot of photos of me looking up, and this one is one of my favorites. It may not be yours because you talk about desaturation and all those.
I actually like that one.
I don't know those terms.
No, I thought that image. How do I want to describe it? That image says so much and is packed full of a story. That image itself is a story. It is. So I desaturated the colors in that image to draw more attention to the expression on your face, the expression of your body language, and just the ambiance of the scene, so that we could feel that image and not just see colors.
Yeah, I was obviously comfortable. It was my natural smile. It was radiating. I think about the song by Sound of Blackness. It's a timeless classic. Be optimistic. As long as you keep your head to the sky, when in the midst of sorrow, you feel like there's no way out. You hold on to your dreams throughout of that, and even from not getting on that stage to getting on the stage, and from rejections or feeling like you're in the wilderness or holding on to a dream and you actually lived it and then it falls apart.
Yeah.
And just really still remaining optimistic.
Well, I'm glad you love that image. I do too. And I remember the moment that I captured that. Yeah.
Can you tell more about that? Because I don't remember all of that part, the moment.
Well, when I say the moment, I just remember when I saw that and I was like, yeah, this is it. Yeah. And you're right. That is your smile. And you in this image are smiling with your whole body.
Yes.
Your whole body is smiling there. I mean, you hear, if you ever watched, what's that show, Top Model? And Tyra Banks would always tell them to smile with their eyes. Your body is smiling in that image. Yeah.
This was another one, looking up of that same kind of photo.
Yeah.
That had. But okay, so nostalgia was this photo. Everybody thinks it was like a 1940s. I'm a singer.
Yeah.
And I just love this photo. It just like, someone says that it reminded them of like your old classic soul singers, which is just interesting that we didn't plan this photo and how this showed up. I'm a lover of words. The connection of music to my creative journey is around the connection of imagery. You can imagine a scene based on the word someone chooses in your mind. It paints a picture. For you, you're really like a songwriter, an artist. You really know how to capture the essence of people in the moment.
But editing them, I have to remember that in the post-processing. I'll spend a lot of time post-processing an image that I think is technically on point. And there is an image that may be a little bit blurry, but I include it because I know that I see personality and character. And that ends up being the photo that is the favorite for the family.
But without the image, you have nothing. So are you going to get caught up in it's not perfect, or have that image to do whatever you want with it later?
Very well said. Because even when taking photos of families, I sometimes have to gently nudge or remind the families that your child doesn't smile always.
I want to say about that too is the digital, we capture things digitally. Last year I did an exercise in actually printing out photos in a photo book. Because remember when you would go to family events, the first thing you want to pick is the album and tell the story. And the Toastmasters Club, the name of that club was Creative Expressions. And how ironic, we're talking about being inspirational and creative. And as I connect the dots, I was like, wow, that was the right club for me to be a part of. You were the right person to start the journey of photographs. Every little step makes sense. Even though, it was divinely ordained as you connect the dots. But the most important thing is to really capture that imperfect moment.
I'm glad you mentioned that you printed your photos and how back in the day when we would visit one another, the family photo album, correct, was lying on the coffee table. And I can remember
People were like pointing, oh, remember this?
Yeah. And so, you open up those books. So I try to do the same. Even today, we don't have the same photo albums, but I found this little antique box and thought it would be perfect to sit on the coffee table, and it's definitely improper to share family mementos and happy moments and unscripted moments.
That's the first thing. If I see a photo album at someone's house, I grab it. Whether I know the people or not, and then I'll ask, what was this and what's the story behind it? It's just nothing like having that, especially when we think about keeping track of our ancestry and grandparents and their stories and those things. So it's very important to do that. I just was like, let me print some of this out. I have all these digital photos. If I lose them, I lose everything. So throughout this process, as we talked about this, how has it changed your perspective of capturing photos if you were ever do this with someone else you've taken several photos with?
And there are plenty of people that I have photographed over the years. And when you brought this up about, having a conversation going back over the photos that I've taken of you, and this discussion that we're having right now, it makes me appreciate when others allow me into their space. And also, as a photographer, I feel more connected to a person after I've been invited into that space, because it's so intimate, it's so personal. When you are not just taking pictures, but really just trying to capture the essence of that person. It just makes me appreciate that God gave me this gift. And I'm glad you asked that question, because now I do understand how it's a ministry, because of the way that you appreciate the legacy, the history, the memories.
Absolutely. I really hope that after watching this discussion that people really think more about the process and capturing the moments, even an imperfection, because it connects the dots and shows you that every aspect of your journey matters.
I like you saying connect the dots. You've said that several times during this discussion. and something that you've learned through therapy. And it reminds me of that scripture in the Bible, Proverbs 16, verse 9. In his heart, a man determines his course or plans his course, however that goes, but God determines his steps.
And most important thing is we talk about capturing the moment, and in Habakkuk 2, writing it down. And so capturing it, writing it down, and like you said, we didn't plan it, but those photos were foreshadowing. The mic, the certain stance, the confident smile, connecting the dots helps you see, oh, in a way, I manifested this in a way. I prayed about, and God divinely ordered my steps without me even knowing that I was playing a part in it, taking the action. So the thing is to take the imperfect action. You get caught up in, it needs to look like this. And recently I've had to also reimagine certain things. Okay, I wanted to do this. Because I can't do it that exact way, do I stop? No. Keep going.
Right. Keep going. Do the best that you can right now.
Meet the moment.
I'm glad we've had this talk. It just solidifies to me the power of visual storytelling, the power of an image, the story in every photo.